What's up, guys? Intellitech Studios here, and this is part one of the repair of the Bissell PowerForce 3537. Now, the vacuum works, but it obviously needs a pretty decent tune-up. It is very dirty. The motor sounds a little bit off balance, and it definitely needs some work. So we are going to clean it up and everything. This will be the first part where we actually take it apart and throw it in the tub and everything, and then I'll wash it off camera with some Zap Industrial Purple Degreaser and a sponge and just kind of scrubbing it. Let it sit overnight and dry, and then we'll put it back together in the, maybe not the very next video, but the following video at least. So yeah, this will be the first part where we take it apart and everything and show that process. Alright, so here's the PowerForce, and before I pull it apart, we are going to take a look at it real quick. It does have a bag. For some reason, I thought it was missing that filter, but it looks like it has it, so I'm going to try washing the filters, but if push comes to shove, we can always order some. And it looks like it's missing a crevice tool as well, but I've got one I can put on it. So we'll see how this runs in its current state, just to see what our baseline is. So it smells really bad. Not necessarily like dog or anything, it smells very dirty. And it's obviously blowing dust through it. So, although it actually has suction, and it doesn't sound as bad, like, I feel like it sounded worse back when I first ran it a number of months ago. So maybe it's sitting, after I ran it, helped it run a little bit better. So I think the motor in this is good. It's probably a similar issue like with the Rewind Power Clean, where it just sounded a little bit off because it was straining. Even though it's not necessarily clogged, I could hear like a pop whenever I turned it on. Almost like the bag is clogged or something, or like there's some weird issue with it. This bag isn't even all that full, and it actually is. It appears to be a genuine bag. Is this a genuine bag? Okay, no, it's not. It's a great value bag. So this is a great value bag, which we are going to throw this away because I have plenty of bags. So we're not going to, there's no point, even though this has space in, there's no point in reusing this. So that is going to get discarded. But yeah, so now we just begin the process of, well, taking this apart and washing everything. Alright, now it's very quick for me to pull one of these apart. I just realized I don't have my screwdriver. I might need that. Alright, so now we're going to take this machine apart. It's already unplugged. We've got our magnetic screw tray. So obviously extension wand, combo tool, our twist and snap hose, which wasn't even twisted or snapped. One nice thing about the plastic hoses is they actually wash up much more easily than the stretch hoses. So in that case, it'll actually help us. Now, right off the bat, this lower hose is not installed properly, so we're going to get that out real quick. Make sure this is still recording. Yes, it is. Gotta get this back portion off, the portion that holds the hose. Gotta get that off, because that's pretty dirty, so we're gonna wash that. Move the cable. This cord hook is very weak, but it does still kind of work, so should be okay. Take the handle off, which actually I can't do that right now because it needs the separate screwdriver. I'm going to take the filter door off, which should just, pop off. And there's our post-motor filter, and there are pebbles and rocks falling out. That's not a good sign. Move our pre-motor filter, which is very dirty, and again there's coarse debris coming off there, so that's not good. But the fact the motor sounded as okay as it did despite all that is probably a decent sign. Yep, that hose popped out, that's what we wanted. And I'm just going to go ahead and pop the cleaner head off because I'm removing everything, so it doesn't really matter if we do this in the wrong order. So kind of wiping the screws on the carpet to get the bulk of the dust off, but obviously it's going to get, the screws are going to get cleaned separately, but just try to get the bulk of it, obviously. And then can lift. Of course, the belt still has some tension since that's still on, but we can kind of pull this off. And then there's our two end pieces. Definitely some, looks like something crawled out of this, but I don't know where it went. Yep, so there's our motor spindle and everything, which we're going to open that up later. But for now, we'll focus on the cleaner head. There's our brush hole. We're going to remove our 4 screws here. This whole thing's coming apart, getting washed. And pop off the base plate. There we go, plenty of coarse debris in there. Of course, our belt is now free, so we can just pop that out. That belt's going to get thrown away. Brush roll might be saved. The actual brush looks okay, but obviously there's a lot of hair that needs cleaned off on it. So that's going to have to get cleaned. And we can bend this, pop out our wheels. Plenty of big pieces of debris in here. It's all going to get washed. And then this should just pop right out. There's no piece of Q-tip in there. This should just pop right out. There shouldn't be too much holding this in place. Is there a screw holding this in place? I always forget if there is on these models or not. I don't think there is. Pretty sure it just pulls out. I believe this is just held in with clips. I want to say that's right. I always forget on these models. Technically I don't have to pull this piece off, but if I want to be thorough, that's the way to do it. Because I'm pretty sure there's a tab right here. Yes, there is. And I just cleared that tab. Yes. So now we can pull this out and pull that off. There we go. All right, plenty of dirt and debris. One of our screws missed, so there's those screws. And then our height adjustment dial. Once we line that up, it should just pull right out. Yep, there we go. So there's our dial. I'm not going to bother pulling the wheels out, but that should be good. Make sure this is still recording. Yes, it is. All right. So we're going to pop off the motor cover because I'm going to vacuum out the motor. That screw looks like it's already been tampered with. I can't get in that. Okay, so I can't get into that screw. without another screwdriver. So let me grab a different screwdriver. All right. Trying to actually get the screw out of the post is kind of annoying because this screwdriver is not magnetic. I can hear all that debris in the motor housing, which is not good. Push that screw out. Yep, so that screw out. It's our motor cover. And got some dirt in there. Plenty of sand and big debris in where this motor is. This one's a Suzu EUP motor. And I can see where this is attached. So we'll disconnect that lead. And we'll remember this blue one is underneath here. So we'll disconnect this lead. Without any problems, hopefully. There we go. Nope, get out of the way, Rocco. That is not getting out of the way. This is actually, the motor itself isn't actually in that bad a shape. I don't know if there's actually that much debris in here, but there is definitely some. But yeah, so we can set that aside. And yeah, so all this junk, we can dump that out of there. Dump all that debris out of there. You can see where these wires are. So this red wire is to the right, this blue wire is to the left, or I guess to the bottom, from the vantage point that I'm looking at this. And now I can take the handle off, which would have been one of the first things to do, but in this case it's a little bit different. One thing that is nice about these models without the headlight is it means that there is not very much getting in the way as far as removing the motor and all that. So, and then now I can remove these top screws that are covering the switch mechanism and all that. These two screws are a little bit longer. So keep that in mind. These two screws are a bit longer. Then this top section is held on with two clips. So we're going to pop out these clips. Pop out these clips. Go. So there's that top portion, and here we can see the switch and the wires and the cord and everything, and then there's this middle piece right here that should just pop right out. Yep, it's just held in with a little clip. There's that little piece of the housing. Then now we can feed the wires through. And here's the switch mechanism. So here's our switch mechanism, which we can unhook. We can unhook our cable, just like that. And we'll get a good look at the way this is hooked up here. Make sure we can get a good focus on that. So the black wire is on top, connected to the on position, and then the blue wire is on the, not the blue wire, excuse me, the red wire is attached to the 0, which is off. So I want to make sure that we get that correctly. And then the cord, the other side of the cord, so the black wire goes straight into the switch, the white wire goes into the blue cable, which runs down, and the red wire attaches to the other side of the switch, whereas the black wire attaches to the top side of the switch. Hopefully you can get a good look at that. Rocco is knocking things over, which is the worst possible time for him to be doing that, because I'm trying to demonstrate this. So that way, both for my sake and for your sake, if you happen to be taking one of these apart. So now we're going to undo this switch, which can be a little tricky, but it should just unclip right there. So you can see that just unclips right there. Oh, ouch. So that unclips right there. And then this lead unclips from the switch, which we're going to find a way trying to uncouple this switch is definitely not easy. Try to show this on camera as I'm attempting to unhook this. This part is quite difficult. Technically, I don't necessarily have to take this out. I could wash this as a unit if I really wanted to, but I don't want to risk damaging anything by doing so. So this part is definitely quite annoying. It's not exactly necessary. I could get away with just leaving this. Because this cable is actually not wanting to come out. I don't want to pull on the cord and have this break. Like, in theory it should be okay, but it's just I get really nervous when doing these types of things. Even though I really shouldn't, because I've done these 100 times. You would swear that it is my first time doing this, but it's actually not. But there's also not a lot of leverage in here. Without this. cord is not wanting to come off, which does concern me a little bit, because if I could just pop the switch out, which it almost, there we go. This is all so dirty. There we go. All right. So pulled that lead off. I'm just going to do the same for this one. There we go. That's what we wanted. All right. So there's our switch. And we can feed the red wire through. There's our red wire, and then here's our power cord, and here's our blue wire. All right, that was very nerve-wracking, and you saw that in real time. So the entire machine is completely torn down now, which is awesome. So we can wash this entire middle section without any reservation about electronics. We can wash everything, in fact. The switch, I'm probably not going to wash. I'm probably just going to wipe down the switch, and then the cords, the actual smaller, wires. These smaller wires I'm going to wipe down as well. Wipe the carbon dust off them and everything. The main cord I am going to wash though, but I'm not going to get the edge connectors wet. All right. So 10 minutes was just me messing with that switch. But either way, now we can get this cleaned up. All right, so here we are in the bathtub with the stuff. So we're going to pre-rinse everything, get all the main bits of dirt out, and then go over it with Priscilla and let it soak. Ew, look at all that coming out from the hose. All that grossness. Use it to wash everything else. all the parts that I already washed into that. Alright, so I did a good kind of pre-treat of the most problematic areas. So now's the fun part, where we take some Persil and we try to fill up the tub. Now my tub is annoying and doesn't like to stay filled, so I actually don't know if this is going to properly stay filled or if it will just immediately drain. But we're going to give it a shot at least, and we're going to see if it works and everything. So we're going to at least make an attempt to plug this drain. Oh, maybe not. And it's starting. I'm going to go kind of overboard with this, but that's okay. Probably should have rinsed that hose out first. Oops. Alright. So now we let this fill, let it soak for a bit, and see where we are. I turned the overhead fan on, or off I should say, so that way you can hear me a little bit better. But as we can see, everything is soaking. You can hear the Persil bubbling up. So if any cleaning agent companies would like to sponsor me, U2 would be a great one. But they probably won't, but that's okay. So what we're going to do now, I mean, the video at this point for this portion is pretty much wrapped up, because obviously I'm not going to show the entire overnight drying process, but what I'm basically going to do is this. We're going to pop the lid, and we're going to rinse all these off, which of course is going to make the sink gurgle. Wash off my arm. And basically, I'm going to, again, I'm not sure if I'm going to stop recording at this point, but I'm going to let the water drain. I'm going to take the shower head and rinse off everything, make sure to get all the soap. I did use a little bit I actually used way too much Persil, which obviously laundry detergent is very potent and concentrated, so I'm going to have to rinse this off a lot, or else there will be residue that dirt will stick to. So I'm going to make sure to do that. I'm going to put all the wires and screws and everything away in a drawer so that way I don't lose them. And after everything dries, tomorrow or the day after, whenever I get back to it, it's Wednesday night that I'm filming this at like 11:30. So whenever I get back to this, then we'll start the second video in this two-part series where all the parts will be dry and we'll be putting the machine back together and testing it. So that's pretty much that. I'm going to drain this water, rinse everything off, set it out to dry. Now, if there is stuff left behind, just so you know, I'm going to scrub it off with a Scrub Daddy, so that way that hopefully gets off all the gunk and Kirby cake that survived the Persil soak. So that way, whenever it dries, hopefully there's no dirt or residue that dries to it. Otherwise, that'd defeat the purpose of washing it. But that has happened before. Some machines just wash up instantly and everything melts off, and then other machines, the dirt's so caked on there that you got to really work at it. I suspect this machine will be the latter, so I might have to take some extra elbow grease off camera to get the last little bit. But if you ever wonder, that's why. You usually got to use a sponge and scrub it if it doesn't come off after a wash. So that's what we're going to do. This part of the video is pretty much going to be over. I apologize in advance if I don't speed up this whole process and the video stays 35 minutes long. But either way, at least if I do, then you can see the process from beginning to end, at least up until this point. So yeah. Alright, so this video will resume in a second part later on after everything is dry and we put everything all back together. So for part 1, Intellitech Studios signing out. Have a good one. Peace.